You've seen we have a lot of classification topics. We had the topic tariffs and customs. Of course, there's an administration who is, checking if you're following the rules and if you're following the customs and tariff laws. For example, in the United States, the Customs and Border Protection, we call them CBP, they are divided in the US in 7 regions and then further divided into districts. And custom offices are located at ports of entry to United States, for example, major seaports, for example, New York City, airports, and border crossings. And in each district, there are field import specialists who can seek advice from national import specialists. So it starts always with a formal entry. That means if you import some goods in a country, here for example in the United States, then an administrative process will start. This is required. And the first question is, when do goods have officially entered? So they have entered when they arrived at the US port, and the goods must be permitted, no illegal goods. The delivery is authorized by customs after inspection and release. And the estimated duties, the tariffs, have been paid, or you have given a customs bond, right? If you have posted them. The next thing is we have some very important you need some documentations. So we have some times here, some dates. So the documents must be filled in within 15 days. So an entry manifest or merchandise release form, you have to give this to the US officials. Then we need a US Customs entry summary form. Then a proof of the right to make the entry, so the bill of lading or airware bill or carrier certificate. Then we need the commercial invoice, and you obtain this from the seller. You need a packing slip to identify the contents of the cartons, and so on and so on. Other documents, for example, as a certificate of origin or quota visa or a textile declaration. What is a commercial invoice? A commercial invoice is, you could see this here, it's what the seller is giving you, and it says something about who paid the duties. And sometimes we don't need this. We don't need this commercial invoice, for example, in the United States, if it's the values at $2,000 or less, or if we have an FOB, port of exportation. Of course, today we have a lot of electronic entry processing, and you can also find out where everything comes due to this remote location filling. So if the goods are now came into the country, to the United States, for example, then we have a liquidation. So this is the final computation, and then you have to pay all the duties. You have some time limits. For example, 1 year after the entry, and you have at least to pay this. This is a time limit. And if you don't want to pay these tariffs, you have a protesting liquidation within 90 days. You can say, no, it's too high, or there was a wrong classification. If you don't follow these rules, if you don't pay, then we have some enforcements and penalties. For example, if you make false statements to the customs, for example, wrong origin, so the certificate of origin was wrong, or you have some negligence violations. You can see in the golden ship trading case from 2001, here the importer is then liable, right? In this case, it was the seller was it was a purchase of t-shirts from Hawaii, and he said they came from the Dominican Republic, but in real they came from China, and they just put some sleeves in the Dominican Republic onto these t-shirts and said then they were made in Dominican Republic. But this is not true. And you can find here in this case, and that's why it's so important, they were really proving who knew what. Did the Mrs. Wu, did she really knew where all the products came from, and so on. Good. So this is about the enforcement and the penalties. If you are really committing a crime, then you could face a 2 years plus fine. And we call this also smuggling. So smuggling, for example, of certain items, then you have carry longer penalties. So it's always better to disclose before they investigate, because if you disclose what you have done wrong, maybe they give you aggravating and mitigating circumstances, right? This is also a part of compliance. Of course, you can wait a little bit, because sometimes we have a statute of limitation, and sometimes, yeah, you say, okay, they didn't see it, what you have done. The binding rules are very important. So for your business strategy, you should always, you should always follow these rules, and you should always submit these written. So you can say, okay, I will follow all these tariff rules. Because in case there is a judicial review, they will all look on your formal rulemaking. So what you have, for example, what you have written in this invoice, right? And there can also be a judicial review on binding rules. And that's why you should always have your business strategy, how you make your importing. Responsible for all these things are in the United States a special court. It's a court of international trade. The appeals then go to US Court of Appeals in DC. And of course, all these courts must grant a limited difference to the all US customs letters and rulings, right? Sometimes we have before the importation, we have an emergency review if you are allowed to import all these things, or if it's complete forbidden. Thank you for your attention. We will take a look now at the conclusion.